Greetings and welcome to Blue Smoke and Black Ink, the podcast where you can blow off a cheap cigar if you'd like, or just sit back and enjoy a half hour sit down honoring some of America's finest writers. Today, we're honoring this man, Arthur Miller. This is his biography here. And I consider him the greatest American playwright. Some would argue for Eugene O'Neill, of course, but I'm going to go with Miller. He's much more accessible to me. And I live in Salem, Massachusetts. So you would think my favorite Miller play would be The Crucible, which is about the Salem witch trials of 1692. But it's not even in my top three, I have to admit. This is the one. I love View from the Bridge. I love All My Friends. But Death of a Salesman has been with me for 30 years. I literally can't go through the day without quoting this book. I'll be in a grocery store with my wife, and she'll be looking for a certain brand of tomatoes or something like that. And I'll say, "Oh, take that dream and burn it." And that's from the play, of course, from Biff talking to his dad. So we're really honored today to have a world expert on Arthur Miller, Sue Abbotson of, I think, Rhode Island College. I believe she's the dean of English there. No, she's shaking her head. No, but she is an expert. She's written three books on Arthur Miller. She's given talks all over the country. So let me see if I can get Sue on here. Gallery. There you are. Hi, Sue. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Jim.
Great. Gee, we could start anywhere, but let me start with the three books. How are the three different that it took you three books to cover Arthur Miller? Why three?
I've actually done more than three, but
Oh,
um,
wow.
actually, I have two that are going to be coming out next year, which I could say something about.
Please do.
But the first book I actually did on Miller was very much it was when I was still in the doctoral program, and my advisor wanted me to help her out doing a book called Understanding Death of a Salesman.
Great.
And it was basically aimed at sort of at students, certainly, to give them. And we put together a bunch of documents, like just things like things from manuals and a selection of Dale Carnegie, how to win friends and influence people, stuff like this. Documents that teachers could use in the classroom to help students understand what was going on in the play. And she asked me to help her write that because I went into I actually taught high school level for 5 years before I went on to my doctorate. And so she knew I knew that mindset a little bit better than she'd only ever taught college. So that was my first entry. And because of that, the press asked me if I would do a slightly extended student companion to Arthur Miller. So they wanted me to take a bunch of his plays, it was about 8 of the plays, and show how you could come up with ideas for each of them through a different critical lens. So each play, I think I did Death of a Salesman, Feminism, Death of a Salesman. So each of the plays approached it from a different angle,
Yep.
and then after that, what did I do? I mean, I did a couple of just general modern drama books. After that, I did my pièce de résistance on Miller, which
Oh,
is it's kind of an encyclopedia about Miller, which is what this one is. And I had to sort of basically read everything he'd ever written.
is that
And
book, just to interrupt, is that book still available, Sue? And where can our readers get it?
it was published through Facts on File. You can get it on Amazon still, I believe.
Great. And
Still in
hold
print.
it up again. What's the name of it?
It's the kind of book libraries would have too. I mean, it's basically it's just an encyclopedia. Basically, it has all of Miller's works in alphabetical order with commentary on all of them, and then it has a whole section on various people that he knew, people he worked with, various movements he was involved in, and just sort of a sort of rundown of those. So it really is sort of encyclopedic.
Great.
Um, but the books I've worked on more recently are I've actually been putting together a collection with one of the professors over at Emerson, Josh Polster, and we've been putting together for the Cambridge University Press Literature and Context series. And this is a collection where basically we invited scholars from all over the world to submit essays on different aspects of Miller, basically. So his connections to different historical events, theatrical movements. Each essay just focuses on one thing and
Mhm.
looks at Miller through that context. We had, work beyond the plays, chapters on his fiction, his nonfiction, his essay writing, his screenplays. We also looking at him through different theoretical lenses, and that should be out next year. But alongside that, just because I like to punish myself,
Good.
I've also been working on a monograph, another book on Miller. This one is different because it's not about Miller's plays, it's about the critical reception of Miller's plays.
Ah,
So I basically looked at what theater critics and what scholars have said about Miller's work from the beginning through to the current time.
oh, gee.
That is actually one of the aspects about Miller that drew me to him because he emerged on the scene in the late 1940s with this wonderful hit, first of all My Sons, and then
Yeah.
followed it up with Death of a Salesman, which basically he could have retired after Death of a Salesman and lived a happy life. He made so there was just it was such a huge hit. But after that, in the 50s, he kind of lost favor. Part of it was, I think, his suspect politics during the Red Scare, because he was deemed something of a socialist. Well, he was a socialist, but he was deemed a communist. And then, of course, there was the unfortunate reaction to his marriage to Marilyn Monroe, his second
Yeah.
wife.
I
And
still
that
remember
kind of,
my,
yeah.
my my mom was an old immigrant Italian American, and she never forgave him because she is obviously a Joe DiMaggio fan, and she felt Joe was a much better husband
Oh, but
than Miller.
Joe hit her. He wasn't
Yeah,
very nice at all.
I know. And
Yeah.
getting back to something else, you said, I hate to keep interrupting,
Oh
but
no.
talking about presenting these plays to students and explaining them like your first few books did. I taught it in high school, and still remember one of my students was sick for the 2 weeks and was out. So I gave it to him to read on his own, and he came back, and his only reaction was, people were walking through walls. I didn't understand it. What kind of is? But anyway, tell us why you think Death of a Salesman is such an endearing, enduring thing. It's constantly being presented. I think it's on Broadway again. So
Totally. It's
what
currently
does it?
blowing away box office records on Broadway. It's going to
Yeah.
be closing on the 9th, I believe, but I think it's a mighty play for its intrinsic message, but also its unique style, and of course the creation of that iconic character, Willy Loman.
Yeah.
Everybody, you see a picture of Willy Loman and everybody instantly recognizes it. I love the fact the marquee for the current Broadway production, on the marquee, it had in big letters on it, "Attention must be paid,"
Oh, wow. Yeah. Talk
which I
about
thought was
another quote
wonderful.
that I use all the time. Have you
Yeah.
been down to Broadway to see it, Sue, or haven't you
I
made
have
it?
not. The price, it's out of my price league.
Oh,
The
really?
tickets got
Yeah.
very expensive.
I think of Nathan Lane as being a comic actor, but they
Mhm.
say he does a brilliant job
But
of it.
there is also a lot of comedy in the play too,
Yeah.
in all of Miller's work. And when he in later life, when he actually was writing comedies, people were like, I don't understand how he can be writing comedies. He's a tragic. He's always done comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting back to, why I think Death of a Salesman is so important is because,
Yeah.
I think while it exposes all of like the faults and the inequities in American society, both from the time of its creation in the 70s and sadly still so today. That's part of it. The messages of the play have not gone out of fashion. It also, I think, promotes Miller's lifelong belief in American potential and possibility in the way he presents the characters both within and outside the Loman family. Uh, a salesman's got a dream, boy, kind of thing, as Charlie says at the end.
Yeah.
And that is and it resonates, I think, not just with the American experience, but with other cultures too. Because this play has been a huge hit around the world, not just in America.
I remember it being presented in China years
Yes.
ago, and it's not exactly a capitalistic society where they're, oppressing the
Mhm.
worker, but it's a
Miller himself directed it
Oh,
with a Chinese
really?
cast in Chinese. He didn't speak a word.
Wow. Unbelievable. Have you, do any particular presentations that you've seen stand out in your mind? I know you must have seen it live and on TV a few times. and
Oh
and
yeah.
on TV, on movies.
I just saw a really good production of it at Hartford Stage. They did with Peter Jacobson, I think, was playing Willie,
Oh,
and
Jacob.
he did a very interesting Willie, very sort of pitiful kind of character. And it was really funny. He's a fairly short actor, and I don't know whether it's intentional, but everybody else in the cast was like a head and shoulders over him that made him seem even smaller.
Wow, yeah.
Which it reminded me a little bit of the Dustin Hoffman one because he played it, when Dustin Hoffman played it, he had them make his suit two sizes too big so he would look little in the suit.
Oh, really? Yeah, and Dustin Hoffman, I love that version too. And he
Yeah.
played it as a young man. He was probably in his 30s or 40s when
Oh
he did.
yes, yes. I did a whole lecture once about the ages of the people playing Willy Loman because he's supposed to be in his 60s, and
Yeah.
actors have played him from the 30s through to the 70s. Christopher Lloyd played him once in his 70s, up I think up in
Uh,
Vermont, I think it was.
I hate to admit this, but I saw that presentation. I was in Vermont at the time. Christopher
Mhm.
Boyd for our lead is the doctor so and so from Taxi. No, Reverend
Yeah,
Jim
Back to the Future, Back to the
and
Future.
Back to the Future, and driving down to the Mad River in Vermont to watch him. His brother owned a theater in
Mhm.
Vermont, so he did it. And I said to my wife on the drive down, gee, I hope he doesn't do the whole thing like Reverend Jim. And it planted the seed in my mind, and he didn't. But to me, the whole thing was ruined because I kept picture him saying, well, are you firing me, Howard? Like that.
What really freaked me out about that was
Yeah.
if you look at what he looked like at that time and put a picture of Miller at that age, he was the spitting image of Miller.
Oh, sure, I can see that.
Yes, and that was kind of freaky a little bit.
Yeah, I'll
But
say.
uh, but yeah, I did see the Brian Dennehy production, the 1999 one on Broadway. I did go down to see that one, and that
Oh,
was
okay.
very interesting. A lot of people didn't like the way they did the set because they had these like flyaway set. It was very different from the original set design. I
Uh-huh.
mean, the original set design was also just the design of the play is one of the reasons why I think it's also had this long shelf life because it's such an interesting play. It's not just audiences who enjoy Miller's work, it's also those create the work, the directors and the actors, they love it. Anthony Sher once played Willy Loman and King Lear in the same season at Royal Stratford
Wow.
Theatre. And he compared the characters. He said, it's very similar characters in many ways.
Boy.
But but when I
That
when I was looking at the different ages of people who played Willie, because Lee J. Cobb was the first Willy
right.
Loman, pretty
He
young
opened
when he
on
played.
Broadway. Yep.
Yeah, he was only, I think, 40 or something. He was pretty young.
Oh,
And the actors who took it over in the run were a bit older. But it's been noticeable. A lot of the actors who've played the part have ended up having to um, drop some performances or stop playing because of ill health because it's such a wearing part.
yeah.
Dustin Hoffman cut back two of his two performances a week so he could continue it. Philip Seymour Hoffman, there's people who suggest that playing Willy Loman is what led him in the end to commit suicide.
Did he really play Willie Loman?
Philip Seymour
Oh
Hoffman
my
was the last thing
gosh.
he played.
Oh, can you imagine if there was ever a film or a tape of that? That would be
Yeah.
just amazing.
I don't think it was taped, unfortunately.
Oh,
There have been a lot. The Brian Dennehy one was taped. That is accessible.
oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah, and of course
and
the Dustin Hoffman.
and Lee J.
Another
Cobb
fa
also did a TV version too when he was
say that
older.
again. Who?
Lee J. Cobb also did a version you can get hold of, but it was a later version with different cast.
Oh,
It was still Mildred
really?
Dunnock, but he and Mildred Dunnock got together in the 60s and did a TV version.
Oh, wow. I'd never heard of that. One of my favorite actors is Robert De Niro, and I'd love to have De Niro take it on. I know he's not a stage actor, but he made a cheapy, quick movie back maybe 30 years ago with Wesley Snipes called The Fan. And the only thing that is memorable about it is he's a knife salesman, and in one scene he's being fired. And I can just picture him saying, "Are you firing me, Howard?" Like that. So you're right when you say that the part is just all encompassing. It can be young people, older people. I heard once, Sue, that that Arthur Miller wrote the play, the first act, in a couple of weeks. Have you heard that?
Now, he actually wrote the first act in about 3 days, and then he took a leisurely 3 weeks to finish the play.
Wow.
And it just came to, I mean, the thing about Miller, and I think and again, one of the things that draws me to him is the authenticity of his characters. And I think that is because most of them are, in fact, based on real life people. They're not autobiographical, but they're based on people he knew, and he creates them with dramatic license. He doesn't, it's not autobiographical, but he invests them with those ticks that makes them feel like real people. I mean, Willy Loman was based on his uncle Manny Newman, who had a wife very like Linda and two sons very like Hap and Biff, who are kind of waste of space kind of sons.
Wow. And they were a friend of Arthur Miller's, this fella?
No, he was his uncle. On
Oh,
his mother,
really?
he was married to his mother's brother. No, married. He was married to his mother's sister. His mother had a bunch of sisters who were married, and one of them, Lee Balsam, was actually helped him build. Lee Balsam came over and helped Miller build a stoop on his house because he was also a very keen carpenter, just like Willy Loman builds the stoop on his
Wow.
house.
Gee. And somewhere in there, maybe Arthur Miller was Charlie, the next door neighbor of all
You
of
know
them.
what? Charlie, I think, is based on his dad because his
Oh,
dad was
really?
a
I
very
was going to ask
kindly
you if his
guy.
dad a salesman, but you think his dad was more like Charlie, huh?
Oh no, yeah, I mean his dad was his dad actually was a I mean he knew salesman. His father came over literally from Poland with a tag around his neck, last of the family, to join the family business, which was clothing sales. His grandfather had a clothing factory, and his father worked for them, and then he worked his way up and built his own place. He had the Miltex suit and mostly women's clothing he did. And
Wow.
he had like 800 employees. They were fairly wealthy when Miller was little, and then they lost it all in the crash.
Oh,
But Miller grew up around salesmen. His uncle Manny worked for his dad as a salesman,
wow.
and he knew salesmen. He tried it himself. He actually, when he was 17, he wrote a short story called In Memoriam about this guy Alfred Schoenzeit, who was a salesman, and he tells the story of this guy a salesman who basically is a little like Willie, getting to the end of his days and has to borrow some money. There's a kid goes with him to help him carry his bags when he's going on the road, and which is something that Miller did for his father's salesman when he was
Wow.
younger. And this guy, the story's like talking about this guy and whatever happened to him. And it turns out this guy ended up falling on the railway tracks, and they think it was probably a suicide.
Oh, wow.
But that
There's,
was kind of the glimmer of Willie back then
yeah.
when he was 17.
Oh, there's so much interesting facts about it. Like I love the fact that Miller decided not to name the product that Willie was
Mm,
selling, because he's basically selling Willie Loman, they love me.
absolutely. I mean, when he gives the woman the stockings, one wonders if it's something about clothing,
Yeah.
for sure. And he talks about having an eye for color and this sort of thing. So it feels like, but you almost, I mean, yeah, people have written things saying what he's selling is himself. That's what's really
Yeah.
those suitcases.
Yeah, kind of obvious, but maybe a
Yeah,
cliche, but true, in a
but it
lot
could
of
be
ways.
anything. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. What play do you put as number two, Sue, behind Death of a Salesman?
It's, you know what? To me, it's oftentimes my favorite play is the one I've just seen an amazing production of.
Yeah, fair
I mean,
enough.
I was actually just over in London in June, and I was lucky enough to get to see a production of The Price at the Marylebone Theatre that they were doing there,
Oh,
and and it was actually during the heat wave, and it was in a theatre. The Marylebone Theatre does not have any AC, so it was fairly hot in there. And sitting there, we it's kind of viscerally felt the temperature rising
wow.
as the two brothers in the play, Walter and Victor, they're arguing, and who by the close they've both been put through this emotional ringer, and they were also literally sopping with sweat. And,
Wow.
and there's great performances by everyone. The last time I'd seen the play was on Broadway with Danny DeVito,
Oh,
and
really?
Mark Ruffalo and Tony Shalhoub, which
I
was
didn't,
great.
That
Go on.
that's a good cast right there. I
Oh,
didn't
totally.
realize there were so many. From the price, think the only line I remember is, "We were eating garbage there, buddy." We
Yeah.
said,
Yeah, when Victor talks about what it was like with his father. I mean, Danny DeVito played the old furniture dealer Solomon, and he played it he really played up the humor of it. But I
"Yeah,
didn't find him a particularly sympathetic character. The guy playing Solomon in this British production, Henry Goodman, who's got a history with Miller Plays. He was in Broken Glass when it opened in England, or back in the 90s. But he played it with the comedy, but also with a greater kind of underlying gravitas, which I loved as it altered how I reacted to the character. This is why I like seeing Miller plays over and over, because I respond differently in the different productions. In many ways, I think the less sympathy was because he played it as a man who knew what he was doing. In a kindly way, but also he didn't need my sympathy. He had it all together. And the Broadway version, I'd felt most sympathy actually for the Walter character, the brother Walter, who was played by Tony Shalhoub, as he appeared to genuinely kind of reach out to his brother and want to try and reunite with him, although his brother does shun him. But in this recent production, the London one, my sympathies actually went for Victor, the other brother,
oh,
who I thought was the way he was played, he seemed more capable of love, an emotion that Walter's struggling to understand. And so, it's kind of just everything sort of. I mean, the I come away from the production having a new insight into the play. And in
yeah,
this one made me think that the problem was that both of the brothers are so wrapped up in themselves, they don't really leave room to understand other people. And when Walter deeply offends his brother towards the end of the play by assuming that Victor had chosen the life he led to eat garbage out of, to eat
yeah,
garbage off the street kind of thing, he loses the chance to mend the bridge he'd been trying to mend with his brother. By contrast, of course, the Solomon character, which is why he understands people, which is why he's so good at manipulating others and why he ends up getting the last laugh, quite literally. Because in this play, Solomon ends the play putting on one of those old laughing records, recorded people laughing to get people laughing, and he laughs along with it. And he also gets the furniture that he wanted at the price he wanted to pay for it.
wow, that's amazing." Talking about Tony Shalhoub and two brothers fighting, it's a little off the topic, but have you ever seen a wonderful movie called, and I can't remember it. I always thought it should be called Waiting for Louis Prima, but it's called Big Night, where the
Oh,
two
yes.
where the two brothers are fighting over the restaurant, and
Yeah,
just
John,
wonderful.
it's
It's
John Turturro.
almost
Yeah.
Arthur Millsian, and it's
Well, Miller has two brothers fighting in so many of his plays. I mean,
really,
right from the very first play, The Man Who Had All the Luck, David Beeves has a brother who it thinks he's going to be a baseball star and he doesn't quite make it. And then we've
oh
got
wow, what
we've got the brothers Chris and Larry, who's dead in All My Sons, but also kind of in competition. And we've got Biff and Happy and Death of a Salesman.
sure, and what's the answer, Ben? Willie's brother.
Willie and his brother Ben, who's who's kind of. I went into the jungle and when I was
Yeah.
17, when I
Yeah.
came out and
My
I was
God, I
rich.
was
God damn.
rich. Yeah. When I taught the play in high school, one of the assignments was to take any line from the play and fit it into your everyday conversation. And then they had to come
Mm.
back and report on.
Oh no.
And of course, then what's the answer was very easy because if they were cheating on a test, even if the kid next to you wasn't called Ben, you could always use that line. But I had to stop that assignment, and I'll tell you why. When Willie's in the restaurant cracking up, he starts going, "Math, math, math," because Biff had failed math. And I had my students going into Mr. Kuchar's math class going, "Math, math." And so we cut that out. But
Oh.
again, it shows you the universality of that play. It's just
Yeah, I
amazing.
mean, I always like to ask students, which character do you sympathize with the most
Yeah.
and the least? And it's the answers are fascinating because it's all over the map. Some really go for Linda because they feel she's so put upon, whereas others have seen Linda as like she's an enabler, she's terrible, you know,
Oh, wow.
she pushes that poor man to his death. Others like, oh, we can't like Willie because he's an adulterer. Others like Biff. and happy. They also have their fans happy. Oh, he's so overlooked by his parents. It's so mean. And Biff, he's just being pushed in the wrong direction. He just wants to be free. He wants to go and live a life on the range. And this is in the 1940s, which is highly unlikely. Biff's
Yeah,
dreams are as as bad as his father's in some way, as
yeah.
unattainable.
Well, yeah, I think that any woman who sees the play has to be captivated by Linda. I mean, if you
Mm,
see Linda's last speech there, she's our gal.
mm,
I never realized there was a negative aspect to that at all as an
yeah.
enabler, but I suppose you can see it any way you want. We're running very short of time.
Yes.
I can't tell you how much I'm enjoying myself. I wish we had time to have you play a few of those ukuleles hanging above your head there. But would you like to read a passage from either one of your books, or would you rather not? That's up to you.
I don't think we have time. I don't really I don't really have the only book I have with me at the moment is this one, and it's not really the kind of thing to read, I don't think. Uh,
Okay.
so I would just maybe how about I actually did prepare a few comments. Maybe just I'll give you a quick little spiel about why I think Miller's so great.
Okay, that'd be great.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, while mostly set in America and heavily influenced by American politics and events, the power of his plays does stretch far beyond American shores, proven by the numerous productions of his plays around the globe. Miller produced drama that goes beyond diversion or entertainment to seriously address key social, moral, and political issues that affect all of humanity. And yet it also remains great theatre. For Miller, art has only ever been of use when it tries to change society for the better. And all of his plays have this aim at their heart. And this directive, I think, leads to a deeper bond between the play and the audience, as his dramas literally challenge us to be better. As the quiet voice of Bessie in At the Heart of the Ride Down Mount Morgan reminds us, there are other people. And it's hard to leave a performance of a Miller play without being changed, which is what, for me, makes it very effective drama. I mean, his first big hit, All My Sons, teaches us about responsibility to others, just as the follow-up, Death of a Salesman, teaches us of our responsibility to ourselves. Then he wrote The Crucible, whose ability to span from 1692 Salem to current times implies a study of the nature of society itself, which is what gives it its special universal relevance, conveying striking lessons on the responsible role of authority and the rights and needs of the individual, which speak to people who have never heard of Salem or Senator McCarthy. A View from a Bridge, through the stage directions alone, creates a graphic depiction of obsession. And then After the Fall truly takes us inside a person's head, which he kind of wanted to do in Death of a Salesman too, to understand the complexities of human guilt and desire, something he returned to again, only from an older man's perspective, in Mr. Peter's Connections in 1994. Nothing's ever simple in a Miller play. The Price, Ride Down Mount Morgan, uh, determinedly balance conflicting ideologies to the point one can't comfortably take sides. Broken Glass offers a chilling tale of sympathy and the dangers of its lack, and plays like Incident of Vichy, The Archbishop's Ceiling, Resurrection Blues, while taking place on foreign shores, nevertheless still speak to universal concerns regarding racism, government surveillance, and the overblown power of the media. Miller wrote right up to the end of his life. His final play was called Finishing the Picture.
Oh, wow, that's terrific. Sue
Yeah,
Abbotson, I can't thank you enough for being on. We have to get off pretty soon because Zoom starts charging me money
we
if
don't
I
want
go beyond.
that.
So thank you very much. This will be posted probably in a week or so, but I'll let you know and I'll give you the link. Sue
Thank you.
Abbotson, thank you so much for discussing Arthur Miller with us.
My pleasure. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye now. I'm going to do a few closing things.
Okay.
I should ask you to like and subscribe and comment on this uh,
Mm.
podcast, but you don't have to. I'm running out of time.
Yeah.
If you're not, if you're hard of hearing like I am, there's a button on YouTube called transcript that I want you to punch. It's just excellent. I want you to watch the shorts that I'm doing. Have one on Sue. If you don't have time for the full half hour. And we're going to end, if I can find it, with a bid to our sponsors. Let's see. No, I guess I can't. No, so I'm just going to end out now. So thank you so much to Sue, and thank you to for watching. And we're going to stop the share right now. Bye bye.
Bye, Jim.
Bye, Sue.